Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. We are delighted to have our food team with us, Jim Weaver and Scott Warner, and they're going to be presenting on why food companies are turning to Microsoft Business Central. We do have some special guests on, and Scott will introduce them in just a moment. And also, as a reminder, we are recording this webinar, and we will post it to our on-demand webinar library for you to review again or share with anyone. And you can find our library under our resources tab on our website at inovia.com. And we do encourage you to ask questions during our presentation, so please feel free to type them into the questions box and we will get them answered during our Q&A session. So now I'm going to turn it over to Scott to kick off our presentation.
Thank you, Angie. Welcome everybody to our webinar today, why food companies are turning to Microsoft Business Central. With me, we've got Ron Wood from LorAnn Oils and Brad Everts from TW Garner. I'll let them introduce themselves in just a moment. Like Angie said, I'm Scott Warner, part of the food team here at Inovia Consulting, one of the customer engagement specialists. Along with me is Jim Weaver as well. Jim, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name's Jim Weaver. I'm the Director of New and Client Engagement on the food team. I work with Scott Warner and Scott Borsodi.
All right, and then we'll start top to bottom, at least on my screen. So Ron, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, my name is Ron Wood. I'm the COO with LorAnn Oils, basically tasked with the day-to-day operations and running our production department.
All right, thank you, Ron. Brad?
Yes, I'm Brad Everts. I manage the IT department here at Garner Foods. I've been with Garner Foods for about 12 years now, and so we have been running NAV for the last 11 years or so, and excited about moving over to Business Central.
Perfect, thank you, Brad. Just so everybody's aware, we do want this to be kind of an open forum. So if you've got any questions, please feel free to write them into the chats. We'll be happy to answer anything as they come up, or as soon as Angie lets us know we've got one. So I think kind of where we want to start, Brad and Ron, is where you're at in the process of upgrading to Business Central. You guys are both kind of in a different spot. I think it's important to let everybody know kind of where you're coming from as far as the rest of the conversation is going to lead. So Brad, why don't we start with you on kind of where you guys are at?
Yes, so we started this process of moving off of our heavily customized version of NAV over to Business Central about a year and a half ago or so, and so we are towards the end of the road on this now, getting ready in the next couple of months to be able to go live on Business Central. So we're finishing up a little bit of development work still, and doing lots of testing at this point. So that's where we're at with the process.
Perfect, yeah, absolutely. And we'll kind of get into some of that highly customized old systems that you were talking about, but we'll save that for in a few minutes. Ron, you want to go ahead and kind of tell everybody where you're at in your process?
Yeah, we're actually kind of just getting off the ground. We are probably a couple months into just, status meetings, and we've had some kickoffs and things like that. I think here, the beginning of next month, mid next month, we'll actually be entering or I guess we'll have our test environment set up, and we'll start working on some UAT stuff, and start to get to see what it's going to look like. Maybe a little training in the middle there. Start working through some scenarios that we'll want to review on our end here, which we're actively, kind of pursuing now. The good news for us is it doesn't sound like it's nearly as complex as what Brad's working through. So we have a targeted sort of go live period of next year, first quarter, toward the end of the first quarter. So I'm optimistic we'll be a February, March, April timeframe that I'm hoping we're going live. So if I'm doing that a year and a half from now, I probably won't be here. I think they'll have found somebody else to take it over at that point. So luckily for us, we've just got kind of a small, straightforward shop here that I think is going to be a little easier to move our business into BC.
Yeah, and I think the other part of that is you're also taking on another installment at the exact same time with an e-commerce thing. So you got your hands full.
Yeah, well, we had to move it either way. And we are at the point where we did want to have a website redesign. And we weren't going to try to tackle them both, but, having our current provider be able to get up to speed and move us into BC was going to be an expense anyway. And we weren't feeling that was going to be any softer of a landing. So yeah, we just decided to bite off both chunks and get it done. So yeah.
Yeah, so maybe not as complicated as Brad's system, but definitely got a lot going on your end as well.
Yeah.
And so kind of walk me through what were some of the challenges you guys were facing in the old system that kind of prompted you to get to an upgrade to a new system. Kind of talk me through kind of what your day-to-day challenges were beforehand.
Yeah. So,
Start with Brad.
yeah, no problem. So a couple of things there's quite a few different things if I really get into it, and we have a lot of different systems that are tying into Nav today, and that's part of what's been the challenge too for us going forward. Moving to Business Central is we've got various ISVs that we're moving away from. Some by force because they're not there in Business Central. Some by choice as well. So we've had challenges there. We've got our upgrades that we have done. We started with Nav 2009 R2, went to 2013 R2, and then to 2018. Upgrades have been just incredibly difficult in general for us. So that's one of the things we're really excited about moving to a more base version of Business Central is being able to get over those hurdles. Some other things for us, rebates and commissions, heavily customized. And then also we have moved to using the Power Platform, especially Power BI for reporting purposes. So we're looking forward to the better integration there with Business Central.
Yeah, I mean the Power BI suite that they've come out with, or the Power Apps teams and everything like that. I mean, it's the fact that it's all in one system now. I couldn't tell you how many times I've heard that is just overly enthralled people to want to jump ship and get on that, because everybody else had some outside system that was integrated, and again, it gets complex with all of the different kind of reporting. So everything being built inside of one is, I'm sure to you, is going to be extremely helpful.
Absolutely.
So Ron, I guess we'll kind of jump over to your challenges, and then we'll
Yeah.
kind of dissect some of what you guys are saying.
So one of the interesting things about LorAnn is just, it's always been a growing organization, and obviously the last few years for us in particular, it's been really rapid, and we find ourselves at a point where we want to start, we're really process driven here, and we want to start investing, trying to make things a little more automated into Nav, use the tools more. I can tell you, we don't even scratch the surface here for the capability of Nav. We're in Nav 16 currently, and we're not even just getting into it at all. So when we start having those conversations about wanting to, and then obviously Anovia has done a nice job of sort of guiding us down the path there, and some great salesmen over there talk us into it. But the other thing is we don't want to make the investments in the old system just to have to make the migration more complicated, and we know the pressure for the migration is kind of coming. And we don't want to have to make any more leaps and that sort of thing. And the further we get away from it is what it feels like. So so we just decided we were going to just get going and get it done so that we didn't have to worry about that. Same thing as Brad, we utilize Power BI around here, and we continue to do that more and more. And we just like the bolt-on nature of that. And we do have some customizations in here, some of which I think BC already has capability and functionality for that we'll be able to move into. So it's really, for us, the pressures of growing. Our team has gotten larger, and they're just looking for efficiencies. We want to use production planning and some of the tools in there. But like I say, as I said here today, we went through those consultations with Innovia. It's something it's easy within reach for us, but to make those moves now and get that moved into the current system wasn't making a lot of sense because we were pretty close to when we thought we needed to do this. So, and it sounds like once we're in BC, we should be able to sit still for a while. And be able to make those investments and not worry about having just to get to the next leap and have it not be for a long term.
Yeah, and you guys both hit on something very similar. Was Ron, you weren't using the system, excuse me, to the best of your ability, to the full functionality that it had. Brad, you guys were highly customized, and there's a lot of things you guys can bring into this latest version that you can get rid of the customization. Business Central now does it out of the box. So I think that is a huge benefit to Business Central going forward, is they're always making these improvements. Microsoft's always trying to do some R&D to figure out what do these customers, these companies need, and getting away from that highly customized, like you said, the rebates piece. I can't imagine what Business Central would look like if it didn't have that for you guys, and then Ron, same thing with your production orders and things. I know you guys were kind of in a highly customized system around that piece for a while, and I think with proper training and the new functionality of Business Central, those costly modifications and things that you guys are having to go through is all just going to be out of the box. So I guess that
and for us, those are outside elements too. That's the other thing. I've been doing this long enough, and I've been at LorAnn here about 4 years, and I do want the integration in Nav. I want it as much as I can in one place, if possible, to where our team sort of has access. And a lot of what you're talking about, all of our schedule keeping and things like that, are outside of Nav currently. And we pull data from Nav through Power BI and things like that to utilize those. But BC is going to have some elements that we won't have to do that, and then we'll get a much longer view of our planning, and be able to have better access to where we stand with work and schedules and things like that. We're really looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of the new functionality that Microsoft's coming out with their AI and all that forecasting and planning. I mean, I can't imagine, Jim. I mean, I'll take you for example. You've spent, I don't know, 40 years or so in food distribution. I mean, what would some AI or production planning forecasting would have done for you then?
Well, when you bring that up and have discussion on that, recently I had the opportunity to visit Brad at his facility, and he showed me the segments of what's left of his AS400 system, which I was on for many years in distribution. And I would think that, being on one platform, Ron, you mentioned scheduling with your employees. I would think that it's going to save you a lot of time once you get to BC and you're able to be on one platform. I know when I was in distribution, it was very tiring and cumbersome to chase down spreadsheets and chase down people to make sure that we were all on the same page, to make sure we were sending out good quality deliveries to our customers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that, excuse me, I think that leads into kind of another topic there, Jim, is the automation. I mean, all of that was paperwork. You had to have a person doing it. You've got all these things that can be now automated for AP, for scheduling. However, whatever way you want to slice it up, you can do more with less. So Ron, what do you plan to take advantage of in the automation sector to do more with less?
Yeah, well, like I say, definitely the planning worksheets, things like that, the tools that that where there's alignment there with purchasing. I have a purchasing manager that as we're allocating inventories and things like that, I like the features of the PO sort of being lined out there and letting us know what we need to do, what we need to buy, and letting us approve those and move those along. But the other big feature for us is we're an order driven organization. So the continuity with web, things like that is going to be really big for us. As you know, we're redesigning it. We just discussed redesigning our web site at the beginning of this, but right now we import orders. There's some clunkiness to that. We're looking to fine tune that. We want to get an order in the organization, in our queues, as seamlessly as possible. So we'll have some work to do there in doing that. The big thing for us is freight calculations, and we have all the way from our little dram bottle up to 5 gallons and drums that we sell. So obviously those things are challenges, which probably going to require some customization around that. But in general, the order entry and the automation from our website is going to be a big one. And then, like I say, just from my perspective back here, the production planning is just big, and we're really just chomping at the bit to get our hands on that, and get that set up. We know there's a little bit of work to go into that even after our big thing is to get migrated, run our business as we are and know that those things are coming later, but we want to flip that switch and have everything work as it's supposed to and as it does today. But those are definitely the things we're looking forward to.
Yeah. So yeah. So Brad, well, I mean, what advantages of the automation do you guys look like you're going to take advantage of at TW?
Yeah, so MRP is a big thing, right? The material resource planning and whatnot. So that's huge for us as well. We're like Ron, we're very order driven, and so the EDI is a big thing for us as well in getting those orders in and being able to get them obviously shipped out and delivered as quickly as possible. AP automation is another big one. That's a big get that we're going after, and we're not necessarily lining that up with the go live, but it's coming shortly thereafter, if not with the go live. But we've got that. They're looking at some AR automation as well. There's just a lot of pieces with it, and obviously, the more we can do from an automation standpoint, the better, right? Like Jim was talking about when he was out here. I gave him a little tour of the production facility and whatnot, and it's really cool for me. I've been here for about 12 years now, and being able to walk around and see how much things have changed at the plant from an automation standpoint. We've put robots in place in a lot of places, palletizing, depalletizing, and being able to not just put in robots to automate processes, but doing so without laying anybody off, right? We found other positions for those people to move into to expand their skill set. Same thing with bringing in automation into an IT system, right? It's not to replace somebody, but it's to expand their skill set, and help them to find other ways that they can help the company, that they can grow themselves, but also find areas where we as a company can get better as well, and leave those I don't want to say menial tasks, but those things that can be done with robotic process automation, allow that to happen there. So
Yeah, no,
Brad, that's a great testimony of your organization and how well you take care of your people. You're a very successful organization for many years, and I know we talked before this call about lot control and traceability, but I was on a previous call earlier today and with a client, we were just talking about order allocations. How do you both think that this is going to help you going forward in regards to order allocation?
Brad, you going? Want me to go?
I was gonna say I'll let you take that one, Ron. I mean that's probably more down your alley.
Yeah, so regarding allocation in particular, in fact, we have a customization that we just integrated or in our organization just a couple of years ago, just simply processing and handling back orders and things along those lines. So, and it made a huge difference in the efficiency of our picking processes and just our throughput daily for our order counts and things like that. So really looking forward to that as well. In fact, Scott and I are in the middle of fine tuning that app for us now. So, that's a big deal for us. And it's really a matter of, once again, we used to do that in a very manual fashion, and just getting rid of some of the administration around that and streamlining that, and allowing the system to help us. We used to really literally walk our picking aisles, come to an item we didn't have, and we would enter that into an access form to let our production team know to build it. So now I enter an order in it, and I know before I even try that I don't have it, and then we just build it before we waste our time on that. So you know, those are huge features for us. But hey, Brad, I did want to ask you one question, if I may, on the AP automation. Are you working on that primarily within BC, or are you working with another a pairing piece of
Yeah,
software there?
it'll be with an ISV that plugs
Yeah. Okay.
into BC. Yep.
Yep. Good. Yep.
Yeah, and so kind of going back to what you were talking about there, Ron, around the that app that we're helping with the allocations and stuff. I mean, from both sides, it sounds like, Brad, you guys have grown. Ron, I know you guys are growing, obviously, with this, what we're fine tuning there is for your secondary warehouse. So, and like you said, Brad, you don't want to lay people off, but you want to find new positions and automate where you can. Put in robotics where the manual labor can be eliminated. And I think that's a great, because we all know it's hard to find good working people. We don't want to lay anybody off, but at the same time, a lot of people don't want to work. So that for some companies, that automation is great because they can do their whole business and they don't have to go out and find these companies. I've got a customer that I think they have 16 employees and they're across all 50 states. I mean, their system is highly modified, but it's entirely automated. They do everything through as much automation as they possibly can because they want to do as much as they can with as many people as they can. So the fact that your businesses are growing just speaks volumes to, I think, the functionality that Business Central brings to you and the automation it can have, kind of as well as the organizations that you guys both work for. So talk to me a little bit more about how important it was on this upgrade to stay as close to out of the box as possible. I'd be like, so Brad, specifically for you, you were highly customized. So how important was it to, on this upgrade, because you knew how painful it was during the other upgrades, let's be as close to as out of the box as possible.
Absolutely. So, that's been one of the big things for us. The previous partner that we had, they had not only provided us with an already customized version of nav for food manufacturers, but then on top of that, anytime we asked for a customization, they'd provide it, and we'd go from there. And over the years, like I said, we've been running nav for 10 years now, for 10 and a half years that we've actually been live, and we've been through a couple of upgrades. So there's been some folks that aren't here anymore with the company. There's new folks have come in, and there's a lot of customization, things that we didn't even know were customized. And also because of being on that food variant, we didn't know what base nav was. So it's incredibly for us, that's been one of our biggest focuses, is making sure that if we say yes, we need this customized, we'd ask the questions. Well, why do you need this customized? What are you going after? Because we're not going to customize it just because that's the way we've always done it. That was a big thing, and not just from my perspective, but from our C-suite, which is great because we had to have, we've got to have their buy-in too. And they've been huge proponents of this move for us from NAV to Business Central. And ultimately, what we found out in going through this is because of how customized things were with ship to addresses, with commissions, with rebates, with how customer cards were set up, we've ended up having to just strip it all away, and we're doing a re-implementation rather than an upgrade. But yeah, short, Are there still customizations that we have to have? Absolutely. There are things that our process we just can't change because of an outside, maybe it's a vendor, maybe it's a customer or whatnot. But for the majority, for all customizations, we have asked those questions like, do you really need this? Show me what you're doing, so that we can see if maybe there is something else that we can do. And we've leaned on our upgrade team at Inovia, our application consultants and whatnot, to really help guide us in that, and talking with other customers as well that have either gone through this process or are going through this same process. So.
Yeah, and Ron, I want to give you a chance to respond to that, but I do have one more question there for Brad. You talked about kind of the training. I mean, how intensive was training for other upgrades when you were bringing on new employees with all those heavy customizations as compared to kind of where you guys are headed?
Yeah, that's been another focus as well. Is just really trying to make sure that that people have the information that they need, all right, that they have the resources that they need, because this is it's very similar in look and feel, but it's different. And the processes do change, right? Microsoft has made improvements. Otherwise, they wouldn't be coming out with a new version every 6 months. So yeah, things are different. And once again, coming off of, the customized platform we had versus going to base, it's been huge for us to sit down and meet, and each of the members of our core team for the upgrade or for the re-implementation are responsible for their various areas, right? We have somebody that represents sales. We have somebody that represents production, somebody representing shipping and finance. And, and in some cases it might be multiple people from the same department. And so it's been important for them to go to the other employees that they're working with and get them engaged and get them involved in the testing as well. So that's something that's been really important to us, to make sure that we have stressed from the very beginning of this. Yes, you're the core team, like you're the quote unquote subject matter expert here, but you need to make sure that your team is involved in this testing and providing that feedback as well, so that nobody's surprised when they open up Business Central when we go live and say, hey, where'd this go? So,
right.
or how do I find this? So,
and we're worried about the same thing.
Yep.
Sorry, go ahead, Ron. Go.
No, so for us, that's a little simpler. We don't have nearly, we have customizations, a lot of fields, just data capture type things. We have a few things here and there, but at the same time, we're taking the opportunity to review those with the proper departments and stakeholders in those, and sort of looking at how they function currently, if there's any improvements that we want to make, but also just whether or not we want to bring it forward. And spend the time and energy into bringing that in. We're not making any assumptions. Ironically, through some of that, we have found, I mean, there's things in there that I didn't even know existed that were far before my taking this on. So, definitely there's some of those out there, and you're looking around the room and everyone's going, I have no idea what that is. So those make me nervous though, because
yes.
those are the ones that we're going to say, okay, we're going to not turn that on, and then see who starts screeching when you flip the switch, and hope it's nothing critical. So we are trying to really flesh those out if no one's really claiming them and understanding what they are, and not just making an assumption that it's not being used, but really trying to track that down, working with the Inovia team to do that, and just making sure. But there'll be definitely some opportunity to clean house, and we're definitely trying to do that.
And I think another one of those terms is the tribal knowledge. I mean, so you've got people that have been there for 30 years in the warehouse or wherever, and this is just always the way they've done it. Well, can you tell me why? And that's just how I've always done it, is usually the response.
What we do. Yeah.
So you want to get everybody, yes, you are, like Brad, you were saying, you are the subject matter expert, but you've got to be able to explain to everybody down the line and up the line why you do what you do, and we have to train it because it's got to be the most effective. However, we want to dissect that, but it's got to be a reason behind the why. So
Right.
Absolutely. And you know, in there are cases where, you know, maybe and I don't mean to pick on any particular department, but you know, maybe you're the shipping supervisor and you know you're on the core team, but maybe you don't know exactly, you don't do that process every day, you know, that that the shipping clerk does. So it's important to get them to test that because you know the devil's in the details, right? And if you miss those small
Absolutely.
minor things, it can make a huge impact. You know, that
Yeah.
could be the difference between being able to ship day one and not being able to ship day one. So that is important.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ron, I think you were gonna make a
Well, I was
comment.
just gonna say we're much like Brad. Certainly sounds like Brad's new modality going forward, which is to really question customizations, really vet those out and understand. I kind of came up in an earlier organization that we kind of had a homegrown ERP system that was completely customized, and it was really easy for people to want to make those leaps and just put it in there. And the next thing you know, you have to maintain those. You have to there's more to understand. There's people that are trying to keep track of all that, and then we of course moved ERP systems, and then all those things had to be accounted for. So I'm feeling very fortunate this time around that I don't have a long list of those. We have a list, but it's not a long one. And going forward, I don't want to say I'm in any way against customizations, but we definitely take the time to understand the need and ensure that there's not another way out of the box here that works that we shouldn't be looking at. And that's the thing about nav too. Sometimes it is hard. You really need to ask some questions and see what other folks are doing or how other folks are utilizing the systems, or even ask your technical partner in Innovia just to make sure you're not missing something, because it's easy to do.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
and
Go ahead, Brad.
I was gonna say, not to belabor the point too much, but you know, one of the beautiful things about Nav and CAL was it was easily customizable. But one of the worst things about Nav and CAL was that it was easily customizable, right? So so it's nice, and you know, Microsoft has made leaps and bounds with this as far as extensions and moving to the AL model, and you know, to make upgrades so much easier. And that's one of the things I'm looking forward to with this as well, is trying to stay up to date. It's one of the reasons why we're moving to Business Central. You know, obviously, yes, Microsoft is no longer, you know, producing a product called Nav anymore, but beyond that, for us, you know, with this regularly scheduled upgrades that Microsoft's doing, to be able to, you know, essentially unplug the extension, do the upgrade, plug the extensions back in, and be up and running. You know, I expect upgrade, not just the testing, but the time to actually do the upgrades to be so much less than what it has been in the past. And I'm really looking forward to that, and I know so is the company, because in the past, as painful as upgrades have been, it's been really hard after some of these upgrades to even think about saying the word upgrade again associated with Nav. So looking
Yeah, so
forward to that.
I think on that note, I think a good time to bring this up was your perspectives on SaaS versus on-prem. What were the pros and cons to kind of both options there? Where did you guys both kind of land, and what was the reasoning behind that? So, Ron, I'll let you kind of lead that one off.
Yep. So this is new for us as well. It's something that we're currently taking on as a part of this. And one of the things I was sick of hearing was end of life for servers and phones and all that stuff. So that's one big takeaway for sure. The other thing is just, recovery strategies, things like that. We recently worked, even we have our server in here now, our nav server that we're going to be moving off of here as we migrate, but we do have a plan here to have that on the cloud, and where we can recover. We took our recovery period from what was a strategy that's long been in here from 4 days down to 24 hours, which was important to me. So if anything ever did happen, if we ever had a real outage or a loss of data or whatever that is, that I have the security knowing we can get right back up and not really miss any business. That was a big part of it. And then just, the server maintenance and the space that goes with all that stuff, just trying to clean that up. I think those are a big deal for us. And like say, this is for the LorAnn organization. I had some experience with that coming prior to here, but it's very new to this organization, the idea of what that is and what it means to be on the cloud and manage data that way and all the security and things that go around that. We just recently have been making all kinds of improvements and updates around, MFA and things like that. So we're moving quickly into some new territory. I guess the best way to say it too, it's almost like we're taking that step out of a little bit of the mom and pop environment into some of the more technical strategies around here. So, so there's a lot for us to learn. There's a lot of education that goes around that for our team, but we're looking forward to it. And then we have a new IT guy in here that's very versed in that, and that gives us some comfort as well. And it certainly helps me give these guys an understanding of what it's going to look like and what it means to us, and not have people worry about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Brad, I'll let you take the floor.
Yeah. So, I'll answer this question by just starting with a little background, right? Middle of 2015, we made the move from an Exchange server on premise to Exchange Online, right? And shortly after that, several months after that, we moved over to SharePoint Online, right? So we saw that 2015 timeframe. All right, this is the way things are going, right? Things are going to move to the cloud. And we have continued that. We're probably about 2 years ago started running servers in Azure and trying to move away from the on-prem, right? I just don't want to be in the hardware management business any longer, right? It's not just the cost of the hardware, but there's the extra costs for electricity. There's what if there's a power outage? You've got the UPSs, the generators, all that type stuff that adds up. If you're hosting it yourself versus if you have it in the cloud. And for us, with Nav or with Business Central, we weren't quite ready. We're not quite ready to move to the full SaaS model, so we're going hybrid. So yes, it's going to be hosted in Azure, but we're still going to have control of the SQL server. We're still going to have control of the Business Central application server, just kind of as a transition period, right? Eventually, we'll go to full SaaS. I think eventually Microsoft will probably end up pushing everybody that way, anyways. But it was a decision that we made. But yeah, we said from the very beginning we're not going to host this, and any new systems that we put in place in general in our organization are going into the cloud, unless there is just an absolute compelling reason why it can't. So
Right.
that's our,
And like I said, that's why I kind of wanted both sides here, because Ron, I know you're going SaaS. Brad, I knew you were kind of doing a hybrid half and half solution there, so I wanted to get both takes because, like you said, Microsoft is pushing everybody that direction. Either the writing's on the wall and everybody knows it.
Right.
But for those companies out there that they're not sure what they need to do, I wanted to lay out some pros and cons to both sides, as well as let them know that you can still have access to your data while it's still in the cloud through your SQLs and stuff like that. So yeah. So Jim, I don't know, you've been quiet. I'll let you ask a question here.
I like the coin phrase of devils of the details. And it prompted me to create another question. for both of you gentlemen, and I'll start with you, Brad, and we'll work our way up to Ron, is what advice would you give our listeners if they were starting where you were with Inovia?
Okay, so so if I was, I just want to make sure I understand. So if I'm talking to another client or a potential client of Inovia, what advice would I give them if they were on that and looking to go to Business Central?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that I can tell you that I would do is, Inovia offers a customer engagement and the ability to sit down with you and go through all of your processes and understand that. And they have deliverables along with that they will provide you, and they'll help you to understand those processes. They'll ask the questions, why did you do it this way, or why are you doing it that way? And then they can present options. It not only gives Inovia a better understanding of your business, but it will give you a better understanding of your business. And unfortunately, this is one of the things that we decided to pass on and said, well, we know our processes and we can go through these things and tell Inovia what we need. And ultimately, we did a really good job with that and outlining how we do what we do. We went through our SOPs and we're updating our SOPs as we're testing with Business Central and getting prepared for that go live. But I know from talking with other customers about it that made a huge difference for them. So that is something that I would say is go through that process and let Inovia help you to go through that process.
Yeah, that was I was going to go right to that as well. We went through we did do the assessment with Inovia, which I just don't see how we would have not done that. Mainly one of the things for sure, it was an exercise for us in helping set a budget and price this to really understand our customizations and what we were using. And by the way, that's where we found some of the, did you know you do this? We did not, some older things that were out there, but so it just gave us some confidence in what we were going into. Inovia was able to apply some time frames and some schedule attributes for us to really understand what we were getting into, understand what our, the length of getting integrated would be, what our potential down points would be, how we would participate in that. And then so from that, we've taken those, that's what we're using basically is the results of that assessment to analyze our customizations with departments and understand if we need them or not and what we're going to do going forward. But I thought that was a critical step in our process of pricing it, setting a schedule, setting timing and expectations, and also getting my steering committee partners here to come along and understand where we were spending the money and which is sometimes is a hard conversation. Inovia is great, but this stuff isn't cheap. These are big investments and a lot of work that goes into this. And I think it's important that people understand what that's going to be. I also like Inovia's approach to that. At that time, I was just before Scott working with Gary, and the approach was to come in somewhat conservative and versus coming in light and then having me be upset at the end of it, which could still happen. I mean, things are going to come up, but I think the approach was, hey, this is the high end of what we think it's going to be. They really looked at the customizations, really looked at our business and what it was going to take to fit us into the systems. And I'm going into it pretty confident about our ability to stay on budget, and our ability to understand how we participate in that. That's one of the things I've already had to address with our team here. Is everybody is starting well, wouldn't it be nice? And it's like, not now, right? You want to stay on budget. You want to, there's a lot of things that we can do, but we need to talk about some of those things once we're in and operating and have our footing because we've already wasted a few weeks on a couple of topics in here that I had to really reel us in and say, hey guys, this isn't the time for us to really start, beating this thing up this way. We really got to look at it the right way. But the assessment was critical for us, and I'm definitely glad we did it. It gave us a lot of confidence in how this is going to go.
So whether we call it an assessment or a planning engagement, you both believe that that's a good investment if you were to start over again.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
so I've got one more question. I know we're coming down on close to the end of the time, and I want to give a chance for anybody in the audience to ask any questions. But my final question to both of you would be, a lot of customers, they don't know where there's a lot of waiting time. These are long drawn out processes that take a while, and Innovia has a time frame before we can start. What is something crucial that a customer can be doing or a prospect can be doing to prepare for the assessment, to prepare for this upgrade? What can they do internally just to prepare themselves for what they're getting ready to embark on?
Well, I think really just understanding what you're doing, making sure you have those SOPs lined out, that they are being followed, or that they are updated, or if you did change your process, maybe you found a better way to do something. Make sure you're updating that so that when that time comes, that you're ready to go with that. Also, I think just trying to familiarize yourself with the resources that are out there that are available for learning about Business Central, and just make sure your employees know that this is coming, right? Change is tough for everybody, but a lot of times I think we can look back when we've made changes, especially systems changes. A lot of times it's for the better. So I think also, making sure your employees know that's coming, making sure you have that C-suite helping to push and drive that project as well, is that support is absolutely critical as well. So
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think the big thing, one, is you got to, I think it's going to vary from organization. I think today is a great sampling. You've got Brad that sounds like he's in a pretty good sized organization. Man, I'd love to have a robot. But and for us to be on the smaller side, getting bigger, I think your expectations going into that are drastically different depending on what it is. But for us in here, keeping morale high around that, no matter what you do, it's a big distraction from your day to day. You're trying to run your business. Orders are not going to stop, all that stuff. So you're absolutely right, Brad, from the C-suite, getting buy-in, everybody staying positive about what that is. But to your other point is to really analyze your stuff. What are you doing? What's most important? Certainly
Right.
learning your core. You've got to conduct business. You don't want to take any steps backwards, even if for a little bit, if you can help that. So you really want to make sure you're put together. And then I think Brad's other point is really valid. I think for us, and I'm not just saying this, if you are a customer of Innovia, you need to attend the conferences. You need to attend Summit if you can, or Dynamics, which I think we're kind of moving more toward. There's a lot of people in your shoes that are at those events. The classes are great. You get to start to see some of the previews. They talk scenarios that you'll immediately latch onto. Once again, coming out of those feeling way better than you go in, because it can be overwhelming. Just the idea of moving your core systems and moving your business from one to the other can really be heavy, and can be a weight on your just the stress of doing business in general. So I know for our team, we definitely took away a lot from the conference in the fall, and sat through the classes that really hit on things that were most meaningful. There's a open dialogue in that environment. People are asking questions that you might even participate in some of that discussion. So we found that to be really helpful. And then you're spending time with guys like Scott, Gary, the gang, that when you can talk about what you're feeling, what you're doing, and they'll pair you up with people. Hey, talk to this guy. Hey, we recommend you sit in this. You're looking for an ISV partner for this. You know, sit through this one and meet these guys. That's how we came to our web partner. We assessed 7 different folks, and we're going with dynamic web. That you know, we took that, but those are all things that we got out of attending that. That were even, you know, put in front of us to even evaluate, and really shortcutted that. So yeah, I think those are really important steps for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. These conferences, I mean, not just the information, but the relationships that you build. You know, we've had folks attending conferences since probably 2010 that were, you know, dynamics conferences and whatnot. And I've taught courses at a couple of them and become really good friends with folks that I've taught with or that I've met at these conferences. And not only that, but you know, some of them you know, were with other partners previously, and you know, have now moved to Inovia as their partner as well. And you know, it's been really good to be able to have those relationships, to be able to send somebody an email or pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm having this problem. Can you help me with this? Or have you seen this before? You know, but that helps with the training aspect as well. And, you know, get as many people involved as you can. And like the Dynamics user group, right? It's free. There's no reason not to. Get involved with the local chapter meetings that are out there. You'll be amazed what you might find or who you might see there. So
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you both. I really appreciate that. That was you did all the plugging for our conference for me, so I didn't have to do any of it. I am going to hand this over to Angie just to see if we've got any questions out there.
Thank you, everyone. No questions have come through at this time.
Okay.
we did a great job, Ron.
I was gonna say, how can that
We
be?
answered everybody's questions without having to ask them. Well, if there's no questions, then I think we can go ahead and wrap this up. Ron, Brad, I really appreciate your time. Thank you guys for hopping on here and having this webinar with us. We know your business is always thanked by everybody at Inovia, so we really appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you
us.
guys. Appreciate it.
We enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, everyone. Appreciate you taking some time out and discussing your insights of your experience with going through the process to making the switch to Inovia and as well as Business Central. So that was very well informative. I hope everyone benefits from this conversation. I thought it was a very good conversation and you gave a lot of insights. So thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Angie.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Just to
Angie.
let you know, we do have more upcoming events on our website, so you can check those out at inovia.com/events. And we also have our training workshops. You can check those out at inovia.com/workshops. We have a variety that will fit your role, so just make sure you select the one that's right for you and your team. If you haven't heard the latest Inovia Conversation podcast, we do have a library of podcast episodes for you to listen to, and you can check those out at inovia.com/podcast. And like the guys mentioned, we do have our conferences coming up next year. We will be in Scottsdale, Arizona, along with Dynamics Con, week of May 21st. So visit our conference page for all those details, and that's inovia.com/conferences. All right. Thank you again, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And if you're watching on the demand, thank you for taking some time out to listen to this conversation that the guys had. And we look forward to seeing you soon on another Inovia webinar. Take care, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Take care.